Good afternoon. Um, Dave here. Just wanted to go through and share my thoughts with you on 2 Kings chapter 8, verses 1 to 6. I think there are some things in here that can speak to us at the time that we're in now, in this lockdown time. Um, I'll just read you the story. So 2 Kings 8, 1 to 6. It's Elisha had told the woman whose son he had brought back to life, "Take your family and move to some other place, for the Lord has called for a famine on Israel that will last for 7 years." So the woman did as the man of God instructed. She took her family and settled in the land of the Philistines for 7 years. After the famine ended, she returned from the land of the Philistines, and she went to see the king about getting back her house and land. As she came in, the king was talking with Gehazi, the servant of the son of the man of God. The king had just said, "Tell me some stories about the great things Elisha has done." And Gehazi was telling the king about the time Elisha had brought a boy back to life. At that very moment, the mother of the boy walked in to make her appeal to the king about her house and land. "Look, my lord the king," Gehazi exclaimed. "Here is the woman now, and this is her son, the very one Elisha brought back to life." "Is this true?" the king asked her. And she told him the story. So he directed one of his officials to see that everything she had lost was restored to her, including the value of any crops that had been harvested during her absence. Um, Now, just to backfill the story a bit, it says that Elisha told the woman whose son he brought back to life. Earlier in 2 Kings chapter 4, from verse 8 down to 37, is a story of where Elisha first met this family, this Shunamite woman, and how he'd passed by her house or by the house of the family house numerous occasions before, and then one day she said to him, he would. She said, "Why don't you kind of lodge? We'll make a room for you." Because apparently his custom was to, when he was passed that way, he would stop at the house and eat. So it was obviously some form of hospitality thing that the family had going on. Interestingly, Shunem was on the edge of the site of many of the battles that happened in the Old Testament around that time. And so the village of Shunem would have probably been used to treating or having wounded or injured soldiers going into the town or into the village. And so this this lady, the Shunamite lady, doesn't give her name, and the family must have been near the city gate, or near the entrance of the town, and so they're used to visitors. They're used to putting on food or welcoming people in, or being hospitable. As well as that being the culture of the day, with visitors, you would welcome them in. So with this family setting up a place for Elisha to lodge, it was he'd in chapter 4 of 2 Kings, he went back one day and said, "Is there anything I can do for you? Can I put in a good word, to the king or the king's people for you?" And the lady replied, "No, I'm fine. I live here with my family. I'm well with, we do well here." And then Elisha said, "There's got to be something." So he asked his servant to go and just find out. And he came back, and Gehazi said to him, "She doesn't have a son, and her husband is an old man." And so Elisha asked his servant Gehazi to call the woman back. And so she came back, and he said to her, "Next year at this time you'll be holding a son in your arms." Her response was, "No, no, my lord. Men of God, don't deceive me and get my hopes up like that." But sure enough, the woman soon became pregnant, and at that time, the following year, she had a son, just as Elijah had said. So her reliance and her trusting Elisha and the fact that he was a man of God and that he brought God's word, um, was built kind of early on. I mean, they obviously recognised he was a man of God, a prophet, because they of setting that place up for him. But even seeing this in their lives, seeing a miracle happen, and provision of an heir, um, must have just kind of sealed that. God, this guy is a man of God. Um, anyway, so the story goes on that when the child was older, it doesn't say how old. He went out to see his father, who's working out in the fields, and he had a pain. I think it says he had a pain in the head, and basically he died. Um, so I think one of the servants had taken him home from the fields back to his mother, and the mother put him on the bed, on Elisha's bed, on the bed in the apartment that they built for Elisha, and basically said, right, go and get me a donkey so I can hurry off to see the man of God, because she's like, I know who to see in this situation. She went to God, or the man that represented God, um, and so basically, long and short of it is that Elisha sent his servant ahead, but that wasn't good enough. He needed to be there. He needed to be there in person to bring the boy back to life. It's apparently the first event of recorded event of CPR, um, you know, of resuscitation, um, or the oldest one that's been recorded. Anyway, that's a rabbit trail. I'm not getting there. So Elisha came. He laid on the boy and brought the boy back to life. And then Elisha, once the boy had come back to life, Elisha summoned Gehazi and the child's mother, and he said, "Yeah, here, take your son." She fell at his feet and bowed before him, overwhelmed with gratitude. Then she took her son in her arms and carried him downstairs, and life went on. Um, so that's the kind of backfill, to the story, of where we are, with Elisha saying, move your family. Now, a couple of things from this is that the first thing is that she was told ahead of time. I mean, this nobody kind of saw this situation coming for us, but this lady could have turned around to Elisha and was like, "Yeah, right, I'm not moving. We're all fine here. Nothing's happening. The evidence is that everything's fine." But Elisha was saying to her, "It's coming. Um, go to another place." And so she went and settled in Philistine. It meant that she had time to plan. It meant that she had time to get a good place. She wasn't involved in kind of rustling through the crowds or a panic of a mass movement of people. God was gracious in telling Elisha ahead of time. That Elisha knew that he was kind to the family, um, in telling them this, and so they had to move because of the crisis, and the obedience of the family in going, because it's not just the woman and her son. It sounded like the whole household picked up and kind of went, um, and so the obedience was there because they trusted the word of 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 Elisha. And it says that after 7 years they returned home to find that their property, had been taken. And so the people that they'd left things with, the trusted authorities, people who were, where it says that, where she said, I'm with my people. I think it's 2 Kings 4, 12 and 13. It says, let me find it. She says here about my family takes good care of me, and the implication sort of in there is that they were a really well-to-do family. So, she could have, you know, been okay. Should have trusted, the people that she'd left a property with. Um, but they'd obviously taken the opportunity to think, oh, 7 years. So obviously she's not coming back. Decided to stay. Come on, let's take the ground and the house and the land that went with it. And so that was when we trust, we put our trust in people. Sometimes they let us down, but God never does. Um, so when she came back, she'd obviously gone back to find a place kind of full of somebody else or full of other, being used, and not being allowed to get back into her home. So she went to the king, and the description of it, that she would have been absolutely sobbing, beside herself, and that she would have been going to him to beg for restoration of her land and her home. Um, and she would have been absolutely, beside, I couldn't imagine having to, come back to home and then have to go somewhere and find, beg and plead, can I please have my house back? Because at this point she didn't know if she'd be able to get a land back or not. If especially the king who was in place was the son of Ahab, and he was known for land grabbing, because he he killed the I can't remember the guy's name, but King Ahab took a vineyard. He wanted a vineyard, and to get it, the owner of the vineyard was killed, so that this king's dad could have get the vineyard. And so she was probably knowing that history, probably thinking, "Oh man, what's going to happen?" But what I felt in this is that God has got this. In the situation we find ourselves, the takeaway line for today is God has got this. God has got you. This woman, this lady, the Shunamite woman, was going through absolute turmoil, absolute loss of everything. She knew a man of God. She trusted his word. She'd gone away in good faith, but not knowing all of the things. Neighbours, kids, lovely. um, Yet, she didn't know the outcome. But we know, we trust, we know God. We get to know Jesus in this, and we know that God has got us. He's on our side. He was on her side. So as she gets to the king's, or where the king was, he was talking to Gehazi, Elisha's servant, and at the time, she would probably may have recognised Gehazi. Gehazi definitely recognised her, and so her heart must have, her faith, in getting back her land must have kind of risen, and thinking, oh, there's Elisha's servant talking to the king. And at the moment she walks in, Gehazi is answering the question about the great miracles that were done by Elisha. It's an interesting thing, because I think the interesting thing about that point is the fact that the king didn't really like Elisha, but he wanted for some reason to hear about the good things that God had done through him, and so his servant Gehazi was telling the king the story of and of the good things that Elisha had done. But then, just at that moment she walks in, he was just a God incident moment where Gehazi was telling the king about the boy that Elisha had brought back to life. And for him to look up, see her, and say, "Oh my word, there she is! That's the woman whose son Elisha brought back to life." And people say, "Oh, it's a coincidence." That is a God incident. Things happen in our lives. At the moment, where we are, what we're doing, people we might be communicating with that we've not communicated before. We may well be bringing them a message of life. We may be changing their story for good. We never know the actions, the small things we do, how they're going to, what implications they're going to have in somebody's life. So, keep going, keep doing. And so the king then, was really interested, and I says, come on, tell me more. So, where is it now? She came in. The king was talking with Gehazi, and he just said, "Tell me some stories." And Gehazi was telling the king about the time Elisha brought a boy back to life. At that very moment, the mother boy walked in. "Look, my lord, the king," Gehazi exclaimed, "here is the woman now, and this is her son." "Is this true?" the king asked her, and she told him the story. So another day, if she'd gone in, the king would probably not have wanted to listen to her case. He would have pushed her off to one of his aides. But that day, God had got his interest because he was talking to Gehazi, and the king was inquiring about the things that Elisha had done. And therefore, she had got the king's ear before she'd even walked into that place. We have got the ear of God, and that he has got us. He has got our situation. He will restore to us the things that are lost, the things that we feel that during this time of lockdown we may have missed out on. God, I believe this word is that God's going to restore to us what we feel we have lost. So if you feel you've lost, some harvest through a business, God's going to restore it. So it's this time. The takeaway line is God has got this. God has got you in this situation. Just an aside, I'm not going to run off down this rabbit trail, but the town, the Shunam, is where Elisha raised, this boy back to life. Now, when Jesus was walking to Jerusalem, he walked through a town called Nain, and this is where the little bits in the Bible that link up so beautifully. That Nain, if you look on an old map, Nain is the next village to Shunem, and Jesus raised the son of a widow to life. He had compassion on her, and if you read in Matthew, not Matthew, in Luke 7, the people who witnessed the miracle of Jesus raising this son to life, they immediately must have had the recollection and the stories of Elisha raising the boy to life in the next village. So it would have been a story that was told in that place. So the fact that Jesus raised a young man, a boy, back to life, because the mother was grieving, the funeral procession going past. But it was just one of those things, the people must have recognised God at that moment, because the shouts are, a great prophet has come to our town, in Luke 7:11-16. Anyway, coming back to where I am, God has got you. God has got this situation. So that's the takeaway for this afternoon. I found, that through this kind of bit of scripture is that for this time we're to trust that Jesus has us. This situation has come about. We don't believe it's from God. We don't believe that it's the devil that comes to kill, steal, rob, and destroy. So we feel this is from the devil, this situation, but out of this situation that was meant to harm and bring misery, God is doing amazing things. So, like I said earlier, what we feel we might have lost, will be restored. The testimony shared by Gehazi and verified by the Shunamite woman moved the king's heart. So those testimonies that we have, that get them out, write them down. The testimonies through this time. Make a journal, and just the words that come to you, the words that are given to you, write them down, because they will be like gold. They will be like seeds that you plant for the future, to see God's goodness come out. So as we remember, as we recount the testimonies that have happened, it releases the restoration and the hope of things to come. Okay? Thank you for listening. And remember, God has got this. God has got you. Bless you. Thanks for listening.